What's up, Summit County? This is Up in Summit, a show about what's actually happening across Summit County. My name is Shiro. I'm a longtime Colorado transplant, skier, mountain biker, and digital marketer.
And I'm Ariel. I'm a born and raised local business owner. Shout out to Everything Colorado and a community member.
I know we took a bit of a break during mud season, but we are back. I was hoping that this time we could talk about the pros and cons of living here up in Summit. So, to kick us off, Ariel, what are the pros and cons for you as someone who's been born and raised here in Summit County?
Hmm. So, pros and cons of living in Summit County. I think pros are easy, right? We have so much access to trails, mountain biking, hiking, in the summer, paddle boarding, and the lake. We can go sailing. And, in winter, obviously skiing, snowboarding, backcountry. So you're really like 15 minutes to all the major ski resorts. And I think that's undeniable. That's why most of us are here. What do you think? What are the pros?
I mean, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's all about access for me. As a skier, mountain biker, like those are two top priorities in my life at the moment. And so anyone who likes those sports and activities knows that access is number one. I will say also, compared to Denver and other bigger cities, the smaller community vibes and just being able to be in nature is great, but also not being super, super remote. Like, right? We have access to a lot of things, right? We have a Lowe's down the street. We have a Target. We've got a Walmart. We have amenities that a lot of big cities and larger cities also have. So I think just from like a size point, like Summit County is really good because you get that mountain town vibe, but you also still get a lot of the amenities that larger cities still have as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I would counter that because it is funny. People call Silverthorne, some people will call it the city. And I think that's because we have Lowe's and Target there and also the type of construction that they're doing. But we also don't have some things that cities have. So, like fitness studios just don't really do well up here, mainly because we don't have the population to support it. And even though everyone's really active up here because we have access to so many things outside, like I haven't seen a lot of fitness studios be able to survive due to that. And that's something I do love about cities. So I would say it's like Summit County for a small town has a lot, but then compared to a big city, it's like doesn't really compare to amenities.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. I mean, it's just not quite big enough for some things. I mean, I think one of the biggest cons of Summit County is that we don't get mail. We don't get a USPS service, and we have to deal with the really, really crappy post offices. And I'm not, blaming the people who work there or anything like that, right? I know it's really hard to organize, and there's a reason we don't get mail, but as a resident, it's definitely tough. Like I have to have like three different addresses to ship things to, and
Yeah.
it's definitely a pain to keep up with. So I think that's another thing we lack. Even though I think our size is there, or it should be there, but yeah, I feel you there.
Yeah.
Going back to
Well, I mean, and let's for anyone that doesn't know, Summit County does get mail. The post office doesn't deliver to houses. So if you don't have a P.O. box on your package, then you're not going to get it and it's going to get returned. So it's a big issue up here. UPS and FedEx do deliver it to your house, but if you don't know that's the person or that's the carrier shipping, then a lot of mail gets returned. So you can go to the post office, but we don't get mail shipped directly to our houses. And personally, for me, it does stop me from buying a lot of things online because I think to myself, like, am I even going to get this? Am I going to have to go through all of these issues? And sometimes it's a lot harder, but sometimes I also think that's a pro. Kind of stops me from buying all this random stuff.
it's a blessing in disguise especially if you're a serial shopper and that's something you have an issue with. I didn't really think of it like that, but yeah, it
I
could be a
feel
pro.
attacked.
You're not that bad, trust me. There's those videos of people who have like hundreds of unopened Amazon packages inside their house because they just can't stop because they just live off the dopamine hit of purchasing items. Another big pro, obviously, is I mean, we kind of already talked about this, but access to mountain biking, I mean, it's really, really good here, especially if you live close to Breckenridge. There's so many trails. There's like hundreds, thousands of miles of trails. And so just being able to bike out your front door in a lot of cases is huge. Yeah, if you live in downtown Denver, like sure you can access trails, but you still have to get in a car and drive there. And for us, it's 10 to 20 minutes. We can access some of the best trails in Summit in Colorado. So I think that's great.
And hiking, biking and hiking. I think too, something that I like about Summit is I kind of like being in a community that is outdoor, has like the outdoor mindset, but also like we're a ski community, we're a bike community. So you can kind of tell the similar commonalities that you have between people. And it kind of is fun to be able to have that mindset. It's the same of like a surf town, a ski town. It kind of just has like a good energy to it. I know it can go a little overboard and people can like get a little stuck on the ski talk or the mountain bike talk. But I do think there's kind of something fun to having like a outdoor sports industry that your town is connected to.
I agree. Yeah, it just creates this kind of grounding element among everyone. Even like I play tennis at the Keystone Tennis Club, and obviously a lot of the people that play tennis also go skiing and they mountain bike and stuff. So, we can talk about something outside of just tennis too, which it's just like a nice little extra thing that, gets you to know people a little bit quicker than like if I played at a tennis club in
Yeah.
New York City or something, right? Like our interests might be so different. It's just going to be harder to relate with folks. So I agree with you there. I know we were just talking about this with some friends before we started recording this, but kind of a pro just about Summit County and just the ski towns here in general is we talked a little bit about the size, right? We think it's a good size. It might not have the cycle clubs that you're looking for, Ariel, but another kind of related point to that is like we have access to Denver International Airport, which for some people you might think it's far, an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes, but in reality things like that's actually very close, and it's not just an airport. It's a huge international hub that has direct flights to most cities in the US and a ton of cities in Mexico, in Central America, also a few cities in Europe. Shout out to Tokyo as well. There's direct flights to Tokyo. So, considering that, that's really good. Tokyo's airport is a 2 hour train ride from Tokyo. So, all things considered, like that's also really good access to an airport, which I know is huge, both for travelers and for people who live there, right?
Yeah, and I know the highway can be difficult to navigate, but a lot of times, you live here, you start to understand it and you figure out when the right times are to go on it and when to avoid it. It's not always possible to avoid the traffic, but as a local, you kind of start figuring it out.
Definitely. Well, I think more people are interested on the cons. So, am I
There
missing
are
any big
none.
pros? Well, I was talking about this before, and like if I were to list every pro and every con, like I think there's more cons in my personal opinion, just from a pure like number standpoint, right? And maybe because humans are just like meant to complain more, but the pros are so valuable in my life. They mean a lot more. So like even though there may be only a few things, they mean a lot more. Let's talk about cons. So we did mention I-70. I do think the I-70 thing can be a huge drag if you have things to do like in Denver, right? Like some things you can't just access up here. For me, one of those things is access to Asian markets. I need to go to Denver to do that, and that's a huge, huge stress for me to like drive almost 2 hours to go to an H Mart. You have to just make a huge trip out of it. So there are some things that you just can't get to, and it takes a really long. Can just get unlucky with the traffic.
Yeah, and you can kind of plan for the weather and pick your days when it's not going to be snowing, which is great. But like you said, sometimes the middle of summer or winter, there's an accident and you just get stuck. Or construction in the summer, that's a big one too. So yeah, getting down to Denver you can get through a lot of the time, but even if I did another con actually is I'm trying to learn Japanese and there are no Japanese classes up here that I know of. So I've been going to Denver once a week. So a lot of things like that, like if you want something more niche, then you're going to have to go to Denver for it. And so I would drive down once a week for my class, but I wouldn't leave, even though it only took an hour and 15 minutes to get there from here. I would leave with 3 or 4 hours ahead of time because if something happened on the road, I wouldn't make my class. So it was always better to go down early. And
Um, Another big con that I think a lot of people will relate with is dating up here in your 20s and early 30s is really tough, especially for men. I think, the rumor's true. There's definitely a lot more men up here than women.
I think that dating is difficult for women up here too.
No,
Let's
you let
be
me finish
real.
my point. I think it's really hard because the ratio is definitely a lot more guys than women, right? And so if you're a guy and it's going to be hard to find a partner up here. The vice versa of that is, as a woman, I think there's just a lot of guys up here that are chasing the snow. They have all these activities and their priorities in life aren't about seriously dating. And so I think women, on the other hand, that are looking for a good partner have a really hard time with that because the men up here just are still children, essentially. And so I think it goes both ways, but it's definitely tough for guys up here.
Also, I mean, my take on the situation is if you live in Summit County and you're single, you should really be dating in Denver because you need to find someone that loves the mountains, that has thought about moving here, and you can kind of pair off of one another. So you do a mountain weekend, you go skiing, you hang out, they stay with you up here. Then you go down to Denver the next weekend, you go out to some concerts, you go out for a good meal. And when you can find the right person that can pair those lifestyles together, then eventually, you just bring them on up here. It's way easier to move up here if you have someone that already lives up here because that's another con is the housing. It's not affordable and it's also not very available. So we have many people and so many friends say, I want to move there. I'm going to move there. Listen, if you want to move to Denver, you can move to Denver. But if you want to move to Summit County, you can't just move there because there's not that much housing. So it is expensive. And even if your budget is reasonable and pretty good, you still might not find something.
Yeah, I mean, housing I think is the number one issue up here for sure, especially if you're trying to live here. And I do like your idea of going to Denver. There's a ton of empty apartments, especially right now. Like I think Denver built a lot of apartments and a lot of them are vacant right now, so it's a great stepping stone. I think that's a great idea. And I think we were just talking about this before, but you can build a network in Denver, but also try and find a spot up in Summit County that you like while you're doing it. Like go to Breck, go to Frisco for a weekend, go to Keystone, go to Dillon or Silverthorne. You can kind of find the town that you like up here.
Yeah, and I think that was something interesting when we talked to a couple of our friends who live up here and they've been here for quite a few years. And I had asked them because since I'm from here, I didn't think I really had a good perspective on making friends. If it's your hometown, you already know a lot of people. So I asked them, was it easy to make friends up here? And they said they felt like it was pretty easy. And I think some people might not feel this way, but something that they all had in common was that they all lived in Denver first. And I think that for the community aspect and understanding Summit County, living in Denver is actually it's good to start there because you start meeting people in that network, you start meeting the outdoorsy people, maybe going skiing with them. You move up to Summit County, and then those people start to come visit you. Then you have friends coming up all the time. You don't feel so lonely. You're probably working during the week, skiing on the weekends, or vice versa. And then you can start building a network up here too without feeling so isolated.
Pretty much everyone I know that lives up here successfully has kind of done one form of that or another. So it makes a lot of sense, honestly, because I think if you just move here from, I don't know, Pennsylvania and you just find an apartment and you don't know anyone, I do think it's a bit tougher to build your network and such. So starting in Denver is like a great hopping off point if you're thinking of moving here.
Yeah.
Speaking of cons, I mean, this is personally for me, it may not matter to other people, but there's a lack of diversity in Summit. So that's something I've personally struggled with since moving up here. For example, one of my friends is Asian and people mistake us for the same person all the time. And it's pretty annoying, honestly, because we don't, in my opinion, look anything alike, but people always mistake us for each other. And to me, that just other Asian people specifically in our case to be able to tell the difference. And so that's definitely an issue up here. And obviously it's not an issue to some people, but for me it is. And for those who are not white, maybe it matters to you, and that's something you should be aware of.
Yeah. It's not very diverse up here. And we do have a big Hispanic community, a lot of Latin culture, but even sometimes mixing of the communities, I think could be better. And yeah, besides Hispanic and white, it's doesn't we don't have a ton of people from other cultures and other backgrounds. And yeah, it's fun having that. It has its challenges too, but
Yeah, and you know where that shows is in the food. We could talk about food too.
yeah, totally.
So yeah, I think another strong point a lot of people who live up here can agree with as a con is the food options aren't great for what you pay for. So there are amazing restaurants when you get into that upper echelon tier, and they are truly tasty. But as a local, you can't be paying $200 per head, especially if you're here on a lifty salary, let's say, or ski instructor salary, right? You're going to be looking at things that are that mid tier or fast grab and go food options. And I think at that tier, there's really not any options in general. And even when you go a step above that, it's when you're at that like 50 to 100 per person price point. I think what you pay for is not what you get up here. Even factoring in the tourism aspect, like it's just not very good up here.
Yeah, I mean, we're paying mountain prices everywhere we go, which is hard because a lot of the businesses, like, they have to charge that just because their expenses are so high. But it makes it really hard for locals to go out and enjoy a meal when they're paying, $100 for two people plus. And we don't have a lot of mid-tier food where it's like mid-level, like mid-price. It's kind of like it's all high prices. So you're able to go out to like the bodegas and whatnot to go grab a sandwich. It's all like $20 mins on lunch, feels like.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, that's why I eat at Chipotle so much. It's just quick and easy, and it's low cost, and it's pretty good, honestly. And yeah, that mid tier is just so expensive for us.
Yeah,
It's just
you
really
should
hard to
probably eat
go
at
out and eat.
Chimayo, a local version,
Chimao's good. Chipotle is just the easiest. Sorry, Chimayo.
closer to our house.
Yeah, it's just closer to our house. I do like Chimayo too.
I wonder if Chimayo does online ordering because that's also the goat.
I'm sure they do. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with that, I do feel like we could give some shout outs to some restaurants that are in that mid tier range, but it's so hard to think of any.
We'll do a happy hour episode and go through our favorite happy hours.
Yeah, and I know it's not that people aren't trying. It's just there's a lot of different factors from.
Yeah, the businesses aren't gouging for these prices. They're the prices that they have to put in order to make a profit.
Mhm.
But when you're in cities, you have more options, and somewhere
Yeah,
bigger, you have more options like that, or smaller towns where the real estate isn't so expensive and all the wages aren't so expensive. You can get more middle ground food for a better price.
yep, yeah. So TLDR, if you don't really care about skiing or snowboarding, and you're a big foodie, but you don't want to pay more than $50 every time you go out per person, Summit may not be your choice.
Yeah. Another con, and I don't want to hate on this community, and I'm not, but the transient community, I think, can be really hard on our community as a whole. And we need them. They're our workers. They're the ones that come in and they give us the influx of workers every season so we can run our resorts and we can run them efficiently. But when you're trying to make friends up here and you're staying for a longer time, when you first get here, I think a lot of people get really excited. They make friends with everybody. And then at the end of the season, most of their friends leave. And you're kind of left like, and then the new influx of people come in. And this is usually younger people, like in their 20s. But you'll see all these people come in and out and they stay for a little bit, but they don't stay for a long time. And that has an impact on our community because they're not really invested. And I personally think that you can make a positive impact even if you're here for 4 months. So it's all about your mindset. But when you're making friends, it can be really hard to make friends with people and see them leave and have that go in and out. You know, like finding your friends can take a while because you just don't know who's going to stay.
Yeah. One of my friends, when I first met him here, he asked me like how long I've been here, and I said like 2 years now. He's like, "Oh, okay, good." Because if you answered less than one or one, I just stopped talking to you at this point, which I thought was hilarious. But I was like,
So
"That's a
funny.
veteran move."
That cracked me up so much. And it was actually interesting. If you want to stay here and you want to connect with the community, there are a lot of meetups that are, I would say, pretty core to the community, especially people our age and around our age. But there are some like mountain biking meetups in Breckenridge with RMU, and then Venture Birds. Ron Rebellious also, they did a skinning meetup with RMU and hosted it there. And I was astounded because everyone I talked to there had been here for like at least 5 years. Some had been here for 8 years or 10. And I was like, okay, actually, I realized that the core part of the community and how to figure out how long someone's been here is if they mountain bike or if they skin, because you have to be here for a certain amount of years to start investing in those gear pieces. So that was kind of funny for me.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, some people do come here and they already skin already, but that you know that means that they're into it.
Yeah, well, they probably understand something about a mountain community already, and they moved here from another one. So they
Yeah.
have like a similar mindset probably, because like our mountain communities, you kind of go to another one and you're like, we get each other.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I think leading on the transient community, especially like when you're younger, something that can be really hard here is the partying. And I know a lot of people can leave here with addiction issues. Not to say you can't get it anywhere, but a lot of people come here and they have a good time and they can leave with some serious issues. On top of that, I think Summit County has a pretty high suicide rate, even I think the entire country. So I think just if you are isolated, I think it can be really hard, and especially if you're dealing with addiction or something like that. I know that's been really hard on some portions of our community.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Early 20s, I was here in Breck going to CC's, and I know a lot of people have had to leave because, yeah, it's a never-ending loop of the restaurant life. And I think this is true for any like tourist town, right? That has a nightlife and has an opera scene. Something about it. It's definitely a problem, and that's why it's so hard to like break out of that restaurant life and grind of being around just a lot of drinking. It's just hard because there aren't that many options as a stepping stone to get out of that life and into a more stable career. So I think, yeah, that's definitely a con for sure.
Yeah. Which, on top of that, then we could talk a little bit about remote workers, because I think that there's a lot of pros and cons depending on what industry you're in up here. Because if you work here and you work for a business that is local to the community, or if you're a remote worker, very different lifestyles, right?
Yeah, definitely. We'll do a a big one because obviously I work remotely and I have a lot to say here, but I can't cover it in a few minutes, and I think we're just at about time for
Yeah.
this portion.
But I have one more thing. I think it's really important.
You already said that. That's two things.
Well, I didn't know I was getting cut off.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think something that's really important to consider is starting a family in Summit County. And for those of us that want to stay and want to build this community, I think it's harder than a lot of other places, because since the houses are, the availability is hard to get. It's hard to get a place where you can have a dog and multiple rooms, and buying a house is $1 million minimum. It's really hard to start a family here, I think. And we could probably do a whole episode on that as well.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. You want some business updates?
Yeah, I'm gonna just pop out and Ariel can cover the rest.
All right. So, business updates. There is the Dylan Business Club. Every second Monday of each month, a bunch of business owners in Dylan get together, Managers are welcome. Business owners are welcome. You don't have to be a business owner in Dillon. We also are recommending any business owners from around the county to come. We are basically coming together just to talk about our grievances, things that are good, things that are bad, but also we're trying to make some change in Dillon and make it maybe less of a drive-through town and more of a stop and stay. There is a new red light therapy business in Frisco called Light Lounge. So you can get a one time or you can get a subscription to it, like monthly membership. Loose Ends is a thrifted craft supply store in the Frisco Emporium. If you haven't gone into the Frisco Emporium, it is so fun to go in there and you can just totally get lost. Skyline Cinema is set to close potentially this fall. They are in the process of selling the property and it is set to become a property called Page West, which is a market rate long-term residences of townhomes and apartments. So there will be no short-term rentals in this. These are not deed restricted. These are market rate apartments and townhomes, which is actually, I think it's great because for especially remote workers that want to come in and people that want to move here, it gives them a little bit more availability and more condensed housing. And they look like they're going to be pretty nice. So I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people are sad about not having a movie theater, but there is a speakeasy theater in Breck, and I feel like that's more our vibe anyway. Shiro's not on the call anymore, but Antler and Crowned Provisions is a new custom hat shop in Breckenridge, and sadly, this is where Slopestyle, our favorite ski shop, used to be. The Tiki Bar in Dillon, while it's not a new business, it has new owners and management. So Steep Brewing has taken that over and they've kind of freshened it up and given it their own spin on things. So go check that out. Fritangas has just opened their second location on Frisco Main Street, right across from Butterhorn Bakery. And I think I already shouted them out, but I'm going to do it again because I went and it was so good. So India's Spice on Frisco Main Street is a new Indian Himalayan restaurant. And wow, I am in love. I wanted to say a special note as well because, we had a low snowpack this season and a lot of local businesses didn't have the winter that they really needed. And we are seasonal businesses, so it has a big impact on us when a season doesn't go as expected. So I do want to encourage everyone to go out and try businesses that you haven't been to in a while because when times get tough, that's when the best businesses start getting creative. That's where people start to, fix up something that was broken and change something people have been complaining about. So those that want to survive, they're going to put their heart and soul into it to get through. So this is where a lot of creativity comes out and drive flourishes. So I went into Rocky Mountain Coffee Roasters the other day and they've been doing so much work in there. They have flowers everywhere outside. They've just been remodeling and making that coffee shop look really cute. So you never know what you're missing out if it's been a year since you've been somewhere. Also, my shop, Everything Colorado Dillon, we are putting in a DIY t-shirt bar where you can customize your own t-shirt inside our shop. So make sure to support local businesses. Go in, check them out, get your eyes on them, and then you can recommend them to friends and family that come to visit. So thanks for listening today and have a lovely week.